Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Horn Call podcast. This is episode 28 for the month of November 2022. My name is James Bolden. I'm the publications editor for the International Horn Society and your host. My guest today is Professor Nancy Joy, who for many years has taught at New Mexico State University in Las Cruces, New Mexico, and she is one of the many unsung heroes of the International Horn Society, one of those people who's been quietly working behind the scenes for a long, long time to make the IHS just the best organization it can be for the horn. Nancy, in addition to her duties at New Mexico State, is the International Symposiums Coordinator for the IHS. And if you're not quite sure what that means, basically the Symposium Coordinator works with the symposium host, whoever that person is for that year, to make sure that everything is planned in a way that puts the symposium venue and the host in the best possible light, as well as the IHS. So in short, she makes a lot of the smoothly running things, exhibits and guest artists. In addition, obviously, to the work of the host, the symposium coordinator is one of the big pieces to that whole puzzle of putting together an international symposium. Nancy is just wonderful to talk to. She is, in my opinion, just in a lot of ways the heart and soul of the IHS, and I hope you enjoy my conversation with Nancy Joy.
Yeah, thanks again for joining me. It's so nice to see you again. And I think I had met you before, but we had a real good opportunity to chat this past summer in Kingsville, and it was just really nice getting to just hang. So
Absolutely. Well, I really enjoyed getting to know you better, and that's really one of those things that brings me to the symposiums because I get to see all my old friends. 1980 was my very first symposium. I was 19, and so it changed my life for the better. And now I have all these friends, and now my whole premise is I want to make sure that everybody has a great time at their first one and has a positive impact, just like it did for me in 1980.
yeah, and those impacts, they last. Those first impressions of a symposium, and it really was. This was it was such a memorable symposium for a number of reasons, obviously. But yeah, we can certainly talk about that more. But first, if you wouldn't mind, I'm sure everybody knows who you are, even if they don't know your name. But they've seen you at symposiums, and you have such a joyous personality, and everybody that meets you instantly falls in love. So I think it would be great for you to tell us a little bit about your musical background and your journey in music and on the horn, as much as you'd like, and just tell us how you got to your current position at New Mexico State.
Okay. Well, when I was 5, I started piano,
Uh-huh.
and I did that until I was 10. Well, maybe I continued a little bit after that, but when I was 10, I started the horn, and I was actually in a drum and baton corps doing flags when I was like 5 or 6,
Oh, wow.
and then baton. And then at 12, I joined Miller's Blackhawks, which is a musical corps indoor. It's like a WGI
Okay, winter guard.
event.
Yeah,
But I was the predecessor, I believe, to WGI. And I marched with them until I aged out at age 20.
yeah.
It was just a wonderful, those directors had a really positive impact on my life. I mean, I had a great home life with my mom and dad.
Hmm.
And so it's not like there was another father or anything, but it's just another great role model
Sure.
between my directors of those ensembles to studying with Richard Chenoweth from the time I was 10 till I was 20.
Hmm.
And then, so I went to Wittenberg School of Music in Springfield, Ohio.
Okay.
That's where I lived for 15 years. And I grew up on a nut farm. It's a I use that term loosely because it was nutty at times, but it was a walnut farm that along with my mom and dad, we planted 5,000 walnut trees on this piece of land. And on this farm, we had everything, every single animal you could think of except for pigs. I don't know why we didn't have pigs. I'd never asked those questions. But between taking care of the farm and going to school, I lived at home all 4 years just because it was only 15 minutes away.
Mm-hmm.
And so I graduated in 1981, and I started applying for graduate work. It was music education.
Mm-hmm.
I had thought I wanted to be a band director for most of my life because of all of those incredible experiences with Fred J. Miller and Miller's Blackhawks. I really felt like, and my band director, who was also my orchestra director, and when I got to high school, he said, it was a really small county school, so he said, if you care enough to be in the orchestra, you must learn how to play a string instrument.
Okay.
And so even though when I was 10, I wanted to play the violin, just like my best friend, Susie, whatever her name was, my band director, who was also the orchestra director, told my parents, Nancy really needs to play the horn, the French horn. And so when I got to high school, guess what instrument I picked?
Mm-hmm.
The cello. I fell in love with the sound. And so the cello, to me, is one of the closest string instruments to the horn.
For sure, yeah.
So I was in choir, band, orchestra, all 4 years of high school. So, of course, that was one thing that made me really, really happy, and I felt like I was doing great things with it, and I wanted to continue in college. So that's why I got my music ed degree at Wittenberg School of Music. Mm-hmm. And then, so I started applying for graduate schools, and I was accepted at Ball State in Muncie and Ohio University with Bill Brophy in Athens, Ohio. And then, Ohio's weather, between the tornadoes and the blizzards. And since we lived on a farm, sometimes we would go 6 weeks without water, and I'd have to move in town with my aunt and uncle so I could take a shower every day.
Oh, my goodness.
I kind of rued the day that I ever lived in the Midwest or in Ohio. And I was driving to horn choir rehearsal, and I hit a patch of black ice, and I spun the car 360 degrees a couple times, and I ended up in this pond. This is before cell phones.
Right, yeah. Oh, my goodness.
So someone called my dad, who was at the office, and he went and got the tractor, pulled me out. I got to horn choir very late, and I was like, cursing the day I ever lived in Springfield, Ohio. And he goes, Mr. Chenoweth said, "Oh, look, Nancy, I just got this. They have a teaching assistant position at New Mexico State University. They have year-round sunshine." And so it's one of those things that professionally, I might have done bigger and better things if I stayed in that neck of the woods, but I decided to take a chance and come out to New Mexico State University. I fell in love with the people, the different cultures, the mountains, the year-round sunshine. And because I am a sunshine girl, those gloomy days in Ohio would always get the best of me. And I was only supposed to be here for 2 years. And I fell in love with it, and I stayed. 41 years later, here I am. And so after I finished my degree, there wasn't any openings. I didn't really want to leave Las Cruces, so I worked in a music store for 5 years, learning instrument repair, calling on schools, and I especially loved the calling on schools because guess what? I could work with students and make the horn sections better and or work with the brass. I would pull them out for the band director. That was one of the things that White's Music Box offered, was the person that went out to the schools to take your order for reeds or whatever you need. He would also, we could work with the different ensembles. So again, I was using my music education passion to help. And then I decided to not do that anymore after 5 years. And a dear friend that I played in Mesilla Valley Concert Band with, his name is John Schutz. He was the band director at Mayfield High School. That was when we had 2 high schools here in Las Cruces. Now we have 4. And he came up to me after rehearsal. I had heard that he was losing his assistant. And he says, "You have your music education degree, don't you?" I said, "Yes, but I never wanted." I had such a horrible student teaching experience
Mm.
that I thought I've made a huge mistake. And I said, I don't think I'm the person. He goes, trust me, Nancy, you're going to love this. So I did that for 5 years. And it was only part time. There was no benefits. It was 2 hours a day, but as a high school band director, that turns into more than just 2 hours a
Oh,
day.
absolutely. I'm
And
sure.
then
Yeah.
I decided, you know what? My passion, what I really, really love to do more than anything in this world is teach horn and play horn.
Hmm.
And so I stepped down from being an assistant band director and started building my own horn studio. And I had 70 private students
Oh my goodness.
that I taught
Wow.
in a week, which I loved. I mean, it was one of those wonderful, wonderful
Hmm.
opportunities. Then in 1995, my horn teacher here at New Mexico State University, Dr. Warner Hutchison,
Hmm.
he he retired completely. He was the department chair when I came out for my master's,
Hmm.
and he stepped down from the horn teaching, and so the position came open, and they wrote the job so that I could possibly apply for it, which, not the terminal degree. So, because I only had my master's.
Hmm.
And so I started here in 1996. Um, and, uh, and now it's 2022, 27
That's
years later.
that is amazing. What an amazing story.
It's a, well, that's probably why I have such a crazy personality, because I've done so many crazy things in my
Well,
life.
but it stands to reason, and as you were talking about, after grad school, you were doing different things. You worked in a music store and did some private teaching, but also did some public school teaching. It I was very happy with my graduate school experience, but immediately when I left grad school and started working, I realized, you know what? There were skills that I didn't learn in grad school. There's a million things you don't learn in school, and that's okay. That's not the point of school. You can't know everything. But it occurs to me that you must have learned so many valuable skills dealing with people of all different kinds of backgrounds and the public, and learning to market things, working at a music store. I mean, those are all things that is sort of implied that a horn teacher at the college level is going to know how to do, but we actually get very little formal instruction on how to build a studio and how to advertise events and how to promote yourself and your own teaching and promote your students. But it sounds like you had just a lot of great tools in your toolbox already walking into that job at New Mexico State. So that I just thought that's an amazing story.
Well, and when I came out here, part of my job as the TA, besides to teach the horn students, was I was playing the Las Cruces Symphony. And this
Mm-hmm.
is when it was more of a community orchestra. So I
Mm-hmm.
started in 1981.
Mm-hmm.
And then once I was done with my degree, the next TA was going to have that position. So I had to again be creative and figure out, okay, how can I fulfill my playing passion? And the job for second horn came open 32 years ago, and
Mm-hmm.
I auditioned for that and won that second horn position. For the last 22 years, I want to say 22 or 23 years, I've been principal horn of the Las Cruces Symphony, because once Dr. Gabi retired, we had a new conductor come in, and he had all of us audition, and he wanted to change it from from a, to more of a professional
Mm-hmm.
ensemble than just community and students.
Mm-hmm.
And so between himself and the board, they raised the money so they could have a more professional orchestra.
Right.
So for the last, I want to say, 23 years, I've been principal horn of the Las Cruces Symphony. So, and then with El Paso Symphony, we have the El Paso Opera.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, I feel so grateful and blessed that
Mm-hmm.
I've had all of these opportunities, just because there was several times I've thought I don't want to have any regrets, but I was thinking, what would have happened if I just stayed in Ohio or
Uh-huh.
Indiana, or what could have happened? And
Mm-hmm.
and then I think about how grateful I am of all the teaching and the performing, and with these wonderful musicians and conductors.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't know if that would have ever happened.
Mm-hmm.
So I always thank my lucky stars that I did stay here, and continue to hopefully blossom in the desert. Um,
Well, I think you certainly have. So yeah, that's great. And you mentioned Richard Chenoweth. I don't know Richard that well, but I've been to some master classes and things with him. So this was before he went to Dayton, I guess. He
Correct.
was at Wittenberg. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. No, that's cool.
And he was actually he played second horn in the Santa Fe Opera for many,
That's
many years.
right. That's right.
And so he said, Nancy, you are a wild and woolly west kind of person. So he really encouraged me to apply. And even though I'm the oldest and the only girl, my parents had a lot of trepidation moving me 1,800 miles away, not knowing anybody, and really
Yeah.
starting from scratch. And unfortunately for them, I decided to stay. I love Las Cruces. I love New Mexico. I love the Southwest. So I think I'm here until the end.
Well, and you didn't have to buy winter clothes, so.
That's right. I was going, sockless in January, and I thought it was the best ever.
Yeah, and we had a similar thing when I did my degrees in Madison, and of course that's the Midwest, and it's just brutally cold. And then we moved to Louisiana, and it's we get somewhat cool temperatures in the winter, but nothing like the Midwest. And so we have this giant box of mittens and hats and scarves. We've not touched them. We don't touch them because there's no need.
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
So I was going to ask you. So moving as basically almost all the way across the country, right? Was there a culture shock or culture adjustment that you had to make moving from the Midwest down to the Southwest?
It wasn't a shock for me. I mean, because I have dark hair and dark eyes, everybody thought I was Hispanic.
Okay.
And they would talk to me in Spanish, and I'm like, no comprendo. No, I embraced it all because it was so different. I just thought it was the coolest thing that, because we have such a melting pot of different cultures here. Between the Native American, the Hispanic, the Spanish. And I just, to me, it wasn't a culture shock. For my parents, that was a different thing.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
My mom, we were staying at this hotel, and we were on the ground floor, and my mom was looking out the window. She goes, Nancy, come over here. There was a Border Patrol agent talking to somebody on the street. Okay. She goes, I want you to remember this site. I'm like, Mom, that could have been somebody that was lost,
Sure.
But they were really, because I am so close I'm 45 minutes from Mexico.
Yeah.
And 45 minutes from Texas,
Right.
So they were being the only girl and the oldest. They never living away from home because, as I said, I lived all 4 years of college, undergrad, at home. So this was my big first step out, and at the age of 20.
And
it was interesting,
it's scary, It's scary, but I mean, that's a step that a lot you have to take. I think a lot of times to go where you want to go and do what you want to do. Especially in this field, there's so few jobs for the number of people out there, and you kind of have to be willing to go where the work is a lot of times.
Exactly. Well, and the thing, people, they cannot believe all the agriculture that I live in. I mean, we have one of the biggest pecan farms in the United States. We grow chili, green chili, red chili, and then we typically have a growing season all year round, and we are the New Mexico State University Aggies. So there is so much agriculture, believe it or not, in my little town of Las Cruces. But we are in the Mesilla Valley. The Rio Grande is just a couple miles away, and so I was amazed. The beautiful Oregon mountains are in the east. And that was the other thing, James. I never knew my directions in Ohio. Never, ever, ever, ever. I mean, this is before you had compasses anywhere.
Sure.
And so I just, I know the mountains are in the east, so I, for the last 41 years, I now know north, south, east, and west. So,
That's pretty cool. Yeah. So, I wanted to, if you don't mind, talk a little bit about. So you mentioned that first IHS symposium in 1980, and let's maybe start there and kind of talk about this. This what's become a lifelong love affair with the International Horn Society, and talk a little bit about maybe that first symposium and where this spark of just wanting to be a part of this fantastic organization came from.
well, it was at Indiana University, and Phil Farkas was the host, and there were 10 featured artists.
Mm-hmm.
9 of them were men, and Freudis was the woman.
Uh-huh.
I sat on the first row every single time she did anything. And I was just thinking, oh my gosh, if she can do it, maybe I can. She gave me so much inspiration. And I every time I see Freudis, I hug her and say, thank you for being there in 1980, because you changed my life. I have the picture of all 500 of us on stage playing the Stars and Stripes Forever, and the
Oh my
featured
goodness.
artists were playing the piccolo part on their descant horns. And oh my gosh, I mean, and the people that I met that first time, and I just knew I wanted to go back every
Mm-hmm.
year. Yeah, even though, I was a graduate student and I didn't have the funds, I would try and figure out some way that I could raise the money so I could go to the
Right.
next one.
Right.
Some of them have been, the one in Japan I missed, unfortunately, and the one in Detmold I missed. But it was just, being a college student, I didn't
Right.
have the discretionary income to do those kinds
Mm-hmm.
of travel at that time. So then I tried to go to as many as possible, and because I had gone to so many, when I would always go early to a symposium and kind of get the lay of the land,
Mm.
and
That's smart.
and,
Yeah.
and I would reach out to the host, say, hey, I'm here. If you need anything, I'm here. I'm a great resource for you. I've been to a lot of these. I can help whatever. If you need me to stuff badges in the plastic and put lanyards on them, I'll do
Mm-hmm.
whatever. And so I think it was in 2003 that my name came up to be on the advisory council, and I
Mm-hmm.
served my 2 3-year terms.
Mm-hmm.
And at that point, I was also helping one of my favorite people in this world, Dr. Michael Hatfield,
Mm-hmm.
with the scholarships. So I was on the advisory council. I was helping with scholarships. I was the New Mexico representative, trying to spread the Horn IHS love around New
Mm-hmm.
Mexico, and so then when Nancy Cochran stepped down in 2005 as from being the symposium coordinator,
Mm-hmm.
they asked me. They said, "Can you do it interim?" And I said, "Sure." Absolutely. So I jumped in, and then they ran a search, and I won that position. So since 2006, I've been the symposium coordinator, the International Symposium Coordinator, and it's one of my favorite things to do is finding people that had that sparkle in their eye like I did in 1980 and said,
Mm-hmm.
I want to host one of these.
Right.
And then
Right.
we start talking about their facilities, what time of year would be best for their university. And then we just, thank goodness, Dr. Bill Scharnberg and his predecessor being the symposium coordinator, they had set up this workshop handbook, which
Mm-hmm.
he gave me. And because all I had gotten prior to that was like 3 pieces of paper as I was doing the interim. And so I was really, really blessed again
Mm-hmm.
that Dr. Scharnberg gave me this resource. And then that's how I was able to help the hosts a lot better.
Right.
And since
Right.
that time, Susan McCullough, Annie Bosler, Julia, our
Mm-hmm.
executive director, we have, it seems like every year we need to review and edit some of the things because it's, we don't have cassette tapes anymore.
Right. And the technology changes.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
right.
Well, and
And
I imagine the planning for these starts, much further in advance than anybody would imagine. It's years out
Yeah,
when they start
I
planning.
like to start 3 years ahead of time,
Mm-hmm.
and have the bid proposal to the advisory council at least 2 years ahead of time,
Mm-hmm.
and then they vote on it. I am just the liaison between a host and the IHS. I don't make any decisions. I help them sort out what possible problems could be.
Mm-hmm.
Making sure we have a nice, diverse featured artist list.
Right.
All those schools of horn playing are represented. And so I'm just a liaison, but it's something that I really love to do. And because I've been also blessed that I've been able to travel a lot with other organizations, like for the Spanish Brass Symposium, I've gone over there. And if it worked out that like for London in 2014, Jonathan, I came in a year early on my way to Spain just so I could look over. I try and incorporate that in one of my other international travels.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that's really helpful if I can go to the venue at least a year before, if not two. I did that in Natal, Brazil, before we hosted there. Was that 2017? Was that right?
That sounds right.
Yeah.
Yeah, 15 was LA, 16 was London.
No, 14 was London.
15 was LA.
16 was Ithaca.
That's right. Yeah.
And 17 was Brazil. Okay. Right?
Yeah.
I think. I don't have it in front of me right now.
I think that makes sense. I'll fact check it later. I'm sure you're right though. But I imagine every venue presents a different set of logistics to be dealt with. I mean, there's probably, as you said, there's a handbook that kind of walks the host through. These are the standard things to be aware of, but every venue is different. Every city is different. All of those things have to be taken into account.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's why, like when I went to Natal, I think it was in 2015, and for their National Horn Symposium, just to check out the venues. And Hadagundis was brilliant and how he staged things and made his university work for IHS 2017. And of course he had Marcus Bona helping him. So we, more than anything, James, this sense of family with the IHS is, I know we use that a lot, but it is such the truth. If you need help, I know I can call 17 different people to come and help me, because they want to help because someone helped them along the way.
Yeah. And I would say that you and all of the IHS leadership, the AC and all of the various coordinators, there's really a spirit of service of, I'm doing this because I want to help the organization, not because necessarily there's personal gain involved or, and to me, that's really special. And it's something you don't necessarily see in the wider world. And again, I think that's, maybe I'm sure there are other organizations like that, but to me, the IHS, in my personal experience, is one that is a good model for that. People work really hard for the organization, and that's not always the case with other nonprofits. A lot of folks are on a board, or they say they're on a board, but they don't. When a task comes up to be done, the room is silent and no one volunteers, and we've all been there, right? But with the IHS, it's been my experience that people are more than willing to help, and I think that feeling of helping the organization, and then the organization that you give to gives back in many-fold ways. I think that's something that has just kept me interested for a long time.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's so I know I use this welcome to our IHS family quite a bit, but it's the truth, because we really truly are a family helping each other be the best that we can be. And so there's been symposiums in the past that all of a sudden the host has lost, most of their volunteers. Well, guess who was the first group that jumps in to help? And it's the advisory council.
Yep.
And I just have to I feel blessed that they trust me when I say, I need your help.
Hmm.
I need your help now.
Yeah.
Please help me. And they jump in. What can we do?
Hmm. Yeah.
Um, Dan Phillips sitting at the registration desk because one of Jennifer's, somebody gotten sick or,
Hmm.
so it's just one of those things that we try our best to help for the betterment of all.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And I wanted to ask you, and this because you've been to so many and have all of these experiences. It might be hard to think of any favorite stories or memories, but are there any that, since 1980 to the present, are there any stories or memories from symposiums that stick out in your mind?
Oh, well, playing the water music on that boat in Ghent was
Oh my goodness.
was really was really spectacular. Every place has its unique givings, that
Hmm.
something that you wouldn't expect.
Hmm.
The cheese fondue that we had in Switzerland in 2007. I mean, you don't get any more real than that. I mean, that's there was James, that's a really hard question. It's like, who's your favorite child, or who's your
Sure.
favorite
Yeah.
horn player, and
Right.
what's your favorite Mozart? People ask me, "What's your favorite Mozart?" And I said, "The one I'm playing at that
Yeah.
time."
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
But I wish I had more organized pictures, or I had written things down in a journal because I've had experience after experience that have just
Hmm.
been glorious and life changing, really.
Hmm. Well, and I'm the same way. I'm terrible at like taking pictures of things. I'm just trying to be in the moment,
In the
and
moment.
like and experience it. But that 50th anniversary book is a real nice trip down memory lane. Like my first was in 1999 at the University of Georgia, and it's nice to flip to that page in the book and be like, oh yeah, that was something I remember from that symposium. So,
And that was the first symposium I took the NMSU Corno crew to.
oh wow, I bet that was an amazing trip.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Yeah.
I mean, I had students that had never been on a plane before.
Uh huh.
And to get them all out there and then rent vans and oh, they such lovely, lovely hosts. Oh my gosh. I she was a wonderful person to be around, and she was so accommodating to all of us.
Hmm.
Because
Jean.
I really
Yeah.
felt like, I had been on a bunch of band trips, being a high school band director,
Right.
but there was nothing like this before, and we had lots of performances. And because of that, Paul Meng, who was there,
Hmm.
he invited us to IHS 2000 in Beijing.
Uh huh.
So after, raising X amount of dollars to get to Athens, Georgia, now I had to go back to my administration and the students and everyone and said, okay, we're going to China. And there was a lot of my upper administrators said, you're crazy. You're
Mm.
absolutely certifiable. We don't want you to do this, Nancy. We don't. And I just saw how it changed
Yeah.
my students' lives. I wanted to do this even on a bigger scale.
Hmm.
So we took 18. I took 16 students, and my mom and dad went.
Oh my
Oh,
goodness.
so I mean, us performing at the Great Wall. My dad had had 2 knee surgeries, and I thought the Great Wall was, you took a bus, they dropped
Hmm.
you off, you were at the Great Wall. Well, where we went, you had to climb. And so we had our
Wow.
horns on our back because we were going to play our fanfare
Hmm.
by one of my former professors at Wittenberg School of Music, Steve Wintereg.
Yeah. Yeah.
We did his fanfare.
Yeah. I know his music.
Pastiche
Yeah.
had won a composition award before that, and we had all memorized it because we weren't going to carry our stands and horns.
Uh huh.
And we were struggling to get up this mountain. I mean, it was like 98% humidity. It was
Oof.
so hot. We were
Oof.
just drenched. And I I was worried about my mom and dad getting to the top.
Hmm.
And so I've got students in front of me, students behind me, and we're halfway up there. And I said, you guys, let's just play our fanfare from here.
Hmm.
All of a sudden, I hear my dad. He is at the top, mind you. He's yelling down, hey, Nancy, you're almost there.
Keep going. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. And here I thought my dad was going to have a hard time getting up. So we rose to the occasion and got to the top. And We played the fanfare, and after our big concert in the North Central Conservatory, I might have those words mixed up, North Central Conservatory in Beijing, where Paul Mang hosted, and my parents said, what can we do? I said, go find a McDonald's for my students, because we had had so many different foods there.
Right. Yeah.
And I said that will make their day. So they went out, and you would have thought those students were eating steak and lobster.
Yeah.
I mean, it was McDonald's, and they were thrilled. And so, I mean, I have so many experiences on so many different levels. My students, performing in the premier solo competition. I mean, my goodness. And I've taken the horn choir to 99, 2000, 2005 in Tuscaloosa, 2008 in Denver, and then 10 years later, 2018 in Muncie.
Yeah, Muncie.
Yeah. And let's see what came after that.
19 was Ghent. Yeah.
Ghent, and then we didn't have one. Yeah. So 2018 was the last one.
That was the 50th. Yeah.
Yep, that was the last one that I took a horn choir to. So my students have gotten to travel with me, and I have taken, when I didn't take the whole horn choir, there was always a couple students with me.
Right.
So and that's one of my greatest joys also, is introducing my students to all of my International Horn Society friends.
Yes, it's such an amazing experience, and that's something that you can't really put a price on, is memories that you have at things like that. So
right.
Now, Nancy, let me ask you: is there anywhere, a region or a continent or something like that has not hosted a symposium that you would like to see a symposium hosted, perhaps in the future? And this is in no way saying that this is not saying that's going to happen. I'm just hypothetically, is there somewhere in your, if you could snap your fingers and make a symposium happen somewhere, is there a place that you think would be really cool for one to happen?
Well, I'm project oriented, and so we've been on 6 continents. I'd like to get that 7th.
Antarctica is a tough sell. Yeah, that's a tough sell. Yeah.
I haven't met any horn players from that region yet, but oh my gosh! And my brain is flooding with memories from going to Lahti, Finland. And the different cuisine there. I never thought I'd be eating reindeer, but I did, and it was delicious. I went in probably a week early for that. Yeah, I wasn't even the symposium coordinator. It's just my nature is I just want to help, and I talked to Asa Tapani, and I said, look, I can come in. Let me come in a week early. Let me see how I can help you. So they picked me up. I ended up getting there they didn't know how I made my connection, and so I missed my ride, and so then I'm basically taking a bus. And this is before cell phones and any kind of communication. And so I got to my hotel, and they didn't know how in the world I would have made it. And I got to sleep really, really well, take a good shower, and then Asa and Posse came and picked me up, and they took me to their summer house on a lake. And so there's no indoor plumbing.
Oh, wow.
You go to the sauna, and then you jump in the lake, and that's how you get ready. And so we did a lot of the work for the symposium that was going to be at the school from the summer home, and that was incredible. Absolutely.
Now, is that one of those places where there's a lot more daylight during the summer than it's like the sun might stay light till like 9 or 10 at night or something? Or
yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. It was a whole different world for me. Having that much sunlight.
I imagine so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
so that's just one of those things, and I always say, I'm not asking you to help me with the travel or the hotel or anything. I let me just come in and help you. And they were so nice.
Hmm.
I ended up going to the hotel that I was going to be going to,
Hmm.
and they had a room available. And I said, and this is, it's a whole different culture, I guess. And it
Hmm.
was in 2002.
Hmm.
Um, I said, "Do you want my credit card now?" She goes, "Oh, no, we'll take care of your credit card when you come back for your real reservation."
Oh,
I'm
okay.
like, "What?" I had gotten lost in the downtown area, and my finish was terrible, and I went into this store, and it was an elderly woman. And so she ran out. She found someone young that spoke English as their
Uh-huh.
second language, and they were able to help me. I mean, I've been truly blessed. I really have, just with the people that have helped me and continue to help me. That's so. I mean, yes, Antarctica would be awesome. I loved the fact that we were able to go to South America. Maybe we could
Hmm.
go to a different part of South America.
Hmm.
I love the fact that we went to Australia. I'd like to go to a different part of Australia
Yeah.
because Australia is a huge country.
Yes. Yeah.
And so
And
we
so is
were on the,
Africa is too. Africa's a huge continent,
yeah,
and
yeah,
such.
yeah, exactly. So I'm not sure Antarctica is going to be on our radar in any time soon. I'd like it to be. So if you know of anybody,
We'll put the word out.
yeah, I
We'll put
mean,
an
I'm
ad in
just
the horn call. Yeah.
right. I'm just, I want to complete the project, 7 continents. Let's go.
Maybe we can get somewhere that's close to Antarctica, and we can, like, you know do a day trip or something and say, well, we did part of the symposium in Antarctica or something.
Right. Oh, that's a great idea, James.
I don't know enough. Anybody that knows anything about geography is probably like laughing at this point, but yeah,
I
I
know.
don't know. I
I
don't know if
know.
that's possible, but
I think I need to go visit first and find out if they even have a venue that we could host something like the
could you
IHS.
imagine that travel request coming across some administrator's desk at your university? Antarctica? What? School of
Right.
Music? That's hilarious.
So yeah, there's a lot of opportunities, and I'm really really excited that we're going back to Canada.
Hmm.
Um, Because wait a minute,
Was it Banff? Was the
Banff. Yeah,
place?
yeah.
Yeah.
I was trying to think of the year actually.
Ooh.
So, and I know Freudis was one of the co-hosts.
I want to say it was in the early 2000s or late 90s, maybe. Was it 98 or something? I don't remember off the top of my head, but
96, I think, was Kansas City. 97.
let's
Oh
see.
boy.
I've got the
Gonna pull
internet.
it up for me.
I've got the internet at my fingers here. assuming the, assuming it's not.
And I'm sorry, I'm having a brain drain right
Oh
now.
no, no.
Um, because I know this. 97 was Rochester. Was Eastman
Eastman.
School of
Yeah,
Music.
Eastman.
Yeah.
Let's see. Lottie Banff 98.
98. That was I
Signature
was getting
Yards. Yep, yep.
I was circling the pond there because I was like, okay, 97 was Rochester and 98 we went to the other side of North America. So I'm really excited about Louis Philippe and his incredible team. I met his power trio of the three girls that were there in Kingsville, and we had a lovely, lovely conversation and a really great working together. And they're excited, and they're going to be Louis Philippe's right hand people.
I'm really looking forward to that too. I'm waiting. I've had to renew my passport, so I'm waiting for it to come back. So,
Okay.
but I started the process early. So for anybody that's got to do anything with their passport, make sure you start in the U.S. Start your process early for sure.
Yes, and thank you for that reminder. I think I better go check my. I was someplace and they asked for my ID, and she goes, your license, your driver's license expires this month, and I'm like, what?
Oh, they're supposed to send you something in the mail. That's strange. Yeah.
Yeah, it expires 10/29 because my birthday
Okay.
was 9/29.
Huh.
So
Interesting.
So yeah, I was like, okay, I'm so glad you mentioned that because that would have been so off my radar.
It's funny. Yeah, those things are funny. Well, Nancy, the IHS is so lucky to have you, and I really want to thank you for speaking with me today. And I guess is there, as kind of maybe a way to wrap up this conversation, is there anything you would say to someone, a horn player out there who's maybe a little on the fence about joining the IHS, or maybe was a member at some point but kind of let their membership lapse? Is there, words of encouragement you might share with them to say, hey, you think about the IHS and consider renewing or joining?
Yes, absolutely. And if you were a member in the past, we have had so many new people with new blood and new energy and new creative ideas. You don't know what you're missing right now because I think we're moving ahead in the things that we're doing, and it's exciting. It's very exciting with our advisory council. They've got some great ideas. And I think once you've been to a symposium and you see the love and you feel the love, I mean, I don't read anything like I read the Horn Call. It's like it comes in the mail, and I'm like, okay, what time do I have today? So I can figure out where I'm going to start, and so that is like the one thing besides emails that I read the minute I get them, and it's really truly an inspiration. And I just got yours, the October one the other day,
Good. I'm glad
and
you got there in time. Yeah.
it's wonderful. It's incredible, and thank you for all your hard work. And I like how you're honoring a lot of people, and because I think that's what makes it more of a family. Finding out about your third cousin, in the horn world. So I really have enjoyed reading your latest Horn Call edition.
Oh, well, thank you so much, Nancy.
And that's the other thing. I mean, and I think we're trying to make it economically affordable for students, and you get the e-version, and then you get to hang out with great people. I could list 100 people right now that become your really dear friends, and they can help you when you're down, and they applaud you when you're soaring. So I just think it's one of the best decisions you can ever make is if you're a horn player, no matter what age, please join the Horn Society because we are an incredible international family, and you'll just enjoy all of the friendships that you make, and enjoy meeting new people from different walks of life, and it's just I love how it brings us all closer.
Thank you so much.